So, Seema highlighted big tech leaders are facing mounting pressure from U.S. and lawmakers about allegations of improper data collection, with louder cries for more regulatory oversight. So what would a crackdown look like? How long would it take? Who would oversee it? Answers now from CNBC contributor Tony Fratto with Hamilton Place Strategies and Ryan Radia. He's regulatory counsel at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Gentlemen, good to have you here. Ryan, let me start with you. Should there be more regulation on a company like Facebook, and what would it look like?
Well, there are already lots of actors that regulate and hold big tech companies accountable, from the Federal Trade Commission, which is already investigating Facebook, to state attorneys general, class action lawyers, activist shareholders. There is a push for a regulatory crackdown. It could involve new legislation that restricts the data collection practices of big companies. I think that would be a very bad approach. It would not only entrench existing incumbents, it would hurt startups, stifle innovation, and possibly mean that we have to pay for services that we currently get for free.
Yeah, you make the point that there's already regulation. I see in the notes that they're not allowed to deceive their customers already. They're not allowed to break their agreements. They're not allowed to infringe copyrights or help people commit crimes.
Sounds
right?
like the Ten Commandments.
In theory, all of those things are already prohibited. I guess they just haven't been enforced.
Well, to me, it's a question of how you enforce it, though, Michelle, if I could just jump in on that. Like, those are all principles that are broadly applied to a whole range of businesses, whether they're internet companies or not internet companies. And actually, it's a pretty good standard for how you do public policy regulation when you're trying to get the best results. I think it's really hard to say what you want to regulate here. Is it the collection of the content? Is it how it's shared, who is sharing it? And until we get there, until we decide what exactly is the what that we're trying to, it's really hard to come up with the who. And as I remind people, about 100 years ago, the guys in the building behind me, they regulated commodities, and they put that under the purview of the agriculture committees in the House and Senate. And today, these are the most enormous multi-trillion-dollar derivatives markets that are still stuck in those agriculture committees for
there
regulatory
can be
oversight.
long-term mistakes for sure. And let's just highlight to everybody that I don't know to what degree you have a conflict of interest here, but you represent both the Internet Association and the Computer and Communications Internet Association that I'll bet are against new regulation, Tony.
And other individual companies too, of course. I wouldn't say against them. I mean, they all have different views on what regulation should be. I just wanted to highlight the potential where you might be speaking from. Of course. Yep.
Ryan, aren't we all just a little bit Claude Rains in Casablanca when we say how shocked we are that the amount of information that Facebook has on all of us? I mean, come on. We know that the internet has all kinds of information. We know about the data hacks. We know about all the interventions that have occurred for a lot of retailers out there. So why are we so shocked about what Facebook has been doing with this data?
It is interesting that some people are surprised. This isn't information that Facebook is surreptitiously collecting. It's information that we share. When we click a like button, that's sharing information not just with Facebook, but with your friends, who might in turn share that information with third parties. It's the business model of these companies, and it's pretty popular. The breaches that you mentioned, we actually haven't seen any huge ones in the tech sector. Companies like Equifax, Target, really it's the older traditional companies that have struggled more with data security. It's hard to get perfect data security, but in general there are a lot of incentives for tech companies to work hard to keep data secure. Of course, there are limits, like when they have to hand it over to government entities, which can compel them to do so in some cases.
Tony, is there the political will to actually put regulations in place, or is this going to be a dog and pony show when they trot out the CEOs of Twitter, of Facebook, et cetera, on the Hill, in the next few weeks or so? I mean, Republicans might not like liberal Silicon Valley, but at the same time, they're not necessarily for increased regulation of any industry, are they?
No, I think that's right. Look, I mean, I think we always love the political theater of these hearings in Washington. I expect that we're gonna get some political theater out of that, and we're going to get the opportunity for a lot of members to express themselves. And in this moment, it might be popular to take some shots at these businesses. At the same time, I think these businesses, as Ryan said, at the end of the day, they're going to be responsive to their customers. And if their customers are demanding, more control over privacy, we saw that with Facebook rolling out today, more controls and easier access to controls than they've had before. They were being responsive to their customers, and so I think you're going to see them deliver that message to the Hill.
Yeah. We spoke with Wilbur Ross the other day about whether or not to regulate Facebook. He was very much advocating a let's wait and see. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Tony, Ryan, good to have you on.